talk about your trip to Japan.
Yeah,
Let's go through it in detail because I've never been to Japan. I am intrigued by Japan as a place. I love a lot of Japanese things. Really big on Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and um,
Dragon Ball Z, mate.
Dragon Ball Z. I love sushi. I
Oh, well, do you know what? I'll tell you what. I did have the best sushi. The best. Do you know what sashimi is?
sashimi.
Yeah, where it's just the meat. It's like in a
Uh,
sushi restaurant. Have you ever had like salmon sashimi where it's just literally a strip of like a little strip of
yeah,
salmon?
I've had that with like
Yeah,
tuna and stuff before, where like
yeah, they do
where
it with
it's
tuna.
where it's
Tuna in
well
most
nice.
English restaurants, you can get like even like general ones. You'll get like salmon and tuna sashimi in most English ones. Like basically, they did it with every single like just all the local fish that they could catch. So
Mm.
I had like sea breeze sashimi when I was out there, which was unreal. Um, I did have quite a lot of tuna. Tuna was obviously quite big in that part of Japan. Because the other thing I had is well, hang on, let me get my bloody itinerary up a sec, just so I can remember what I did what in and shit. Hang on. We when I was there, we went to this sake brewery, and it was quite sad actually, because this bloke, it was like a 200-year-old sake brewery, and he'd been doing it for God knows, probably like 30 years himself. He'd taken it off his dad, and they'd taken it off their granddad, and it was like a family business sort of thing. And he's only got one kid, got one like 13-year-old son, I think, who, and they were like, oh, is he, like the people on the trip were like, oh, is he going to carry on the business, blah blah blah, and he like kind of got all like welled up and was like, no, my son wants to be a YouTuber. And obviously, just like you'd hope that by the time the kid's 18, he'd realise like, don't be a twat, you're not going to be a YouTuber. But it is kind of sad to think that like
Mate,
that's sort of he's only got one kid, like that sort of like that business been going for maybe 200 years, and because the kid just doesn't want to do it, that'll end basically potentially.
do you know, on that note though, maybe you could combine the two.
I
That's
did think that.
That
I thought that.
sounds like the exact kind of thing that would go wild on TikTok. Like some guy
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm some. This is my authentic 200-year-old Japanese brewery, and here's a day in the life. And people lap that stuff up.
Well, he's been trying to. The weird thing is, the guy that was running it had been trying to do that on, and he had like an Instagram account and everything. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Mm.
I'm sure they gave me like a little card or something with
Well,
it
it's all
on.
right.
But
After we promote him on this, then that brewery's
then
gonna
it's
be
game over.
saved.
Yeah, yeah. Our one subscriber's gonna. You can order it to the UK. He said. To be
Oh
fair,
really?
yeah, he did have some form of because he had. I think he did say have it end up having like 25,000 followers on Instagram or
What do
something
they
like that.
brew?
Well, it's so no, it wasn't. We went to a sake brewery, but this was a soy sauce brewery that we went to. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, so it was like different types of soy sauce. It was really nice actually. But there was loads of different types, and then it was tiny, but well, I'll say it was tiny. It didn't look like it's not like a massive factory. It was just like a big wooden bloody bar, two wooden barns, and he
Mm.
just had all these massive, enormous, like 10-meter high wooden barrels, right?
Yeah.
And it does look crazy, to be fair. Like they have all these like platforms over the top of them, and you just like pour, I don't know, God knows what. But like, the weird thing is, all of the barrels, some of the barrels were like over 150 years old, and they just keep them. And he just put some new ones in. But he says the reason they keep the barrels that long is because over time, this bacteria and everything had this like, I don't know if it was mold,
Oh,
but like this
yeah.
weird layer of like mossy shit all over it, effectively. And apparently that is how you make soy sauce with that bacteria. It's like the yeast and
Yeah.
like the fermentation of it. It was crazy. It was really interesting.
Well,
Can't
it's
lie.
like those
But
people. Yeah, it's making me think of like those people that do mother doughs. You
mm,
know, where they make an original dough and they keep the original whatever it is, and they use it from dough to dough to dough and batch to batch to
yeah, I've
batch,
seen that.
and
Yeah, yeah,
it's meant to like make it better and better over time. I guess soy works the same.
yeah. It does basically. Yeah, all of the residue of when they make the soy sauce stays on, and they leave all the bacteria on there, and then just like whack another one in. Some of them have been there for over 150 odd years.
I guess this
Um,
works. That's mad to be fair. I was gonna say, I guess this works quite well as well because obviously one of the things we're going to talk about is the fact that you went to Japan for what was it, 8 days?
He said, well, yeah, 8 days if you include the flights. Yeah, it was a bit whirlwind. Can't lie. Like I feel like what I did so much shit, so quickly. Sorry, that I can't even remember some of it. Like, 'cause it was just like go the whole time. But it was quality.
Well, you had some class
Um,
time at a soy sauce brewery.
well, yeah, I mean that was on one of the last days. To be
When
fair,
you
so
when you said brewery, I was really hoping it would be like some form of alcohol, and then I
there
was like,
was. We did go to a sake brewery as well.
because I was
We
going
did.
to I was going to say I'll reach out to him, see if he'll sponsor us, and we'll make sure we exclusively drink whatever they brew. But
Well, to be fair, if we can get sponsored by the sake brewery, I mean, I'll take that because that was some nice stuff.
I
Do you know
like
what
sake.
sake is? Do you know? Yeah, do you know what it is?
Yeah, I've had it a few
It's
times, but
rice wine, isn't it? Um, but you can just like sip it, and it's just dang. What's this called?
yeah, because I was going to say I don't think it'll have the same effect of us doing this podcast and drinking soy sauce.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Sanuki olive yeast is the only labeling I have on this thing whatsoever. It's all in Japanese. Obviously, I can't read Japanese, so. I'll get it out of
Sanuki
the
olive
box.
yeast. Oh yeah,
Well,
Sanuki
it was
olive
on.
yeast, local sake. And their website's all in Japanese, so you know it's legit.
Oh, mate, honestly, it's fire. Like they gave us. It was a bit crazy because we went there. We'd had quite a late night the night before because you go out after dinner and have a few drinks and everything. Also, the bars in Japanese. A little side note are so fun.
I guess,
They
do you mean the
have.
bars in Japan, not bars that are in a Japanese language?
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Well, the ones we went to anyway. We went to this little one of the best ones. This little bar in Kochi, and I couldn't tell you where it is off the top of my head or what was around it. We just coming back from sort of like we'd had this mad dinner and everything put on for us.
It's all right. We're not a
And
travel. We're not a tourism guide. It doesn't matter
yeah,
for specific locations.
true. Yeah, no, and also our one. I don't know. I think our one subscriber is probably not going to Japan anytime soon, so it doesn't matter. But
If you are, let us know. Leave a comment. let us know if Andy's advice was helpful.
Yeah, I hope it is. It is my job. But basically, they have these little bars, and honestly, you go in, and it's like the bar's it's this like long, really narrow room, right? And the bar's on one side, and literally the only thing there is for space on the other side of the bar is like 5 stools along the bar, and that's it. So you go in there, and like we went into one, and there was these 2 Japanese guys, and then this old Japanese bloke behind the bar who was fucking hilarious. Like old Japanese men are hilarious. I don't know why. There's just something about them that makes them really funny. They're like anime characters. Like when you watch like I can't think of something now, but and it's like some old Japanese man that's like.
Are you talking about
I don't know,
anime or what?
well, yeah. But they're really loud and they make weird noises and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? Like. That's literally what some of them are like.
They're really
Anyway.
loud and make weird noises.
Yeah, they like. I don't know what it is. I think it's obviously just because of the language, but
Yeah.
like some of the noises, some of the sounds in their language is just really weird, and they're so enthusiastic as well about everything. And it's just the facial expressions and everything. They're just sometimes I just find them really funny. But this guy was particularly funny. And anyway, because every time we ordered a drink, he'd pour himself on as well.
Oh yeah,
So
my kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout the night, he just got progressively more drunk behind the bar, which was hilarious to watch because he just likes to be spilling drinks. Then he'd like pour it and just pour it into his mouth at the same time. He was doing us all tequilas, and he was like, "Oh yeah, so how many tequilas we order? 4 tequilas." He goes, "Okay, 5 tequilas then." Like, he's just like sunk on himself. But yeah, we were in this, and because there's like 3 of us in there, and then these 2 other Japanese blokes who were already in there, it's just dead social. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just literally like 5 of you in a bar, and like all of yous are talking all the time. I just quite like the setup of it. It was like quite cozy. It was fun, good banter. And obviously, one of the guys we were with could speak Japanese, luckily. So anything that lost in translation, he could sort of fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But their English is very good. I will say that. Even in like, because I was in quite remote, non-touristy areas, and they all start. I think I'm not gonna lie. I think they start learning English before we fucking start learning English. But in school anyway.
Yeah, I think
Quality that.
before we like when we get receptionists in school, we don't speak to them in English. Speak to them exclusively in like sign language.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because obviously English is different in
Yeah.
lessons, isn't it? It's more like studying English. But yeah, they start really young learning. Like as soon as they go to school, they start learning. So they're all really good. Yeah, it was.
What are you looking at?
I'm just trying to get the actual itinerary of my trip up again so that I can remember what I did.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, if you want to give us an overview of like where you started and everything you did.
I feel like basically, I mean, it was a bit of a weird trip to be fair, because I didn't go to anywhere you would normally want to go in Japan. So like it was obviously most people when I sell a holiday to Japan, they want to go to Kyoto, Tokyo, Osaka. You might get some people want to go to like Takayama and Kanazawa and all these different places. Hiroshima is obviously quite a big one as well. Because it was like a works thing, so like this particular like Japan Airlines was organising it. So they wanted to take us to this island called Shikoku Island, which have never sold or work, and it's obviously not particularly touristy because it's really strange in certain places. But you've like the first night got there, we're just in like you land. It's fucking 14-hour flight, mate. For a start, it's like absolute nightmare. So you get there, you land. You have to do one of these hotel inspections at an airport hotel, but they have these things called. Have you ever heard of onsens? Do you know what it is?
Onsens.
So it's basically like a hot spring bath.
Oh, right.
Basically, but they have in certain hotels they'll have them, right? And so, like in this airport hotel on the roof, they had this onsen, which is like I don't know how they get the water up there from the spring, but it was sick, mate. It's basically just like it's like almost what I imagine like Roman baths would have been like back in the day. You have to go in naked.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, and then like you go in.
Is
and
it
there's,
gendered?
like,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Men and there's separate male and female ones normally, or like if they only have one onsen, they'll do separate times for male and females. So then you go in, they give you like obviously this set of weird pajamas to get changed into afterwards to go back to your room. And like you get a locker. You have to put your shoes in one locker in a different room, then go and get all this stuff, and they'll give you a key for another locker to put your clothes in, which is really bizarre. And they've got a weird thing about it. Like I literally can't tell you how many times I took my shoes on and off whilst I was there. It was unbelievable.
It's a big thing over there, though.
Yeah, you can't walk in anywhere with your fucking shoes on. It's an absolute nightmare. So every time you go in anywhere, and because you're doing anyway, get to that in a minute. But back to the onsen. So you walk in, you got to go in. You walk in there, arse naked, just bunch of baths, bunch of blokes. But it is what it is. You got to go and go into this like shower section to clean yourself first. So you have to give yourself like a whole shower, like wash everything. There's like a weird little stool. Everyone's having a sit down shower in a stool, and it's got like this mirror really low down. So you're sat on this stool with a shower head. There's like shampoo and everything. You clean yourself off. It's really quite bizarre.
So obviously, I don't want to kill your train of thought, but obviously, do you have like a towel that you take in with you, or is everyone just hanging dong?
You don't wear a towel in there. Some people have like a small towel that they'll put cold water on to keep themselves cool, but they put it on their head. So like everyone's just walking around with their dicks out. Yeah.
My dream.
Well, I mean,
I'd pay good money for this.
The first thing the bloke says the first thing that the guy from Japan Airlines said, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go in the onsen? You try it?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" He's like, "Oh, you say no, you have to go in naked, don't you?" I was like, probably don't have anything to worry about. A bunch of Japanese blokes. Turns out I was right. You're not got anything to be embarrassed about when you're around a bunch of Japanese blokes. I'll tell you that.
God damn it, Andy. It's like you want to get cancelled.
It's entertainment, isn't it? Anyway, so you shower yourself off. They normally have, so they're all different temperatures. So they range from like 35 degrees and they go up to like 45. Some places they have them go up higher apparently. But the one I went the 45-degree one, and it makes you a bit lightheaded after a couple minutes in there. I can't lie, your body starts sweating. You feel like, I mean, it's like, have you ever been in a real hot bath and got that weird lightheaded feeling?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, or like even when you've been in the sauna a bit too long, it's a bit like that. So, but they had a cold one, which wasn't like cold plunge cold. It was like 17 degrees, which is like cold tap water in it, like, which was quite nice. And then they have the best bit about it. So they have a sauna and a steam room in there. The steam rooms are really interesting because they have this weird like salt that you put on your body, and it makes your skin bare soft. Like it's really weird. Like it's like this massive. There's this massive, great big vase filled with salt, and then there's one filled with water. And you're in the steam room, and you're like, and I think the water's just to get the salt off your hands afterwards, really, more than anything. And just clean your bench after you get up and all that sort of stuff. But you cover your body in this salt, rub it all in, and then you sweat. And afterwards, your skin's like ridiculously soft. It's so weird. So yeah. And anyway, so then I went after I did that. Been in, the hot, the cold. Went in the steam room. Was like, right, I'm going to the sauna. The sauna was absolutely roasting, 95 degrees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and obviously it's like one of these like tiered ones where it's like 100 degrees at the top and about 85 at the bottom. But you sat in it. It's not like a sauna in the UK where they're called quite dark and relaxing or anything like that. It's like bright lights in there. Everyone's just sat around like sort of next to each other with the dicks out. They give you a little bum mat to put on the seat. Presumably, which you then have to obviously wash and everything afterwards. So it's presumably more a hygiene thing than a temperature thing, really.
Yeah.
But also 90-degree wood, bollock on it, not ideal. So you so go sit in the sauna. Everyone sat around. They just got a fucking TV with the news on in there. And Japanese news is hilarious. Have you ever seen Japanese news?
No. When would I have seen Japanese news?
Mate, honestly, Google it. The sound effects are unbelievable. Like it's like a little kid's first day on PowerPoint, and they've just got all these little pop-ups that pop up, and like they have a weird sound effect that goes with it, like diddle-oo, doo-doo-doo, like that. It's like I can't even explain. You have to watch it to see what I mean, but it is so funny. So anyway, I was watching. So you're sitting there and watch Japanese news, which I thought was I've never been in a sauna that had the news on in it before. A bit bizarre.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that was my first night. Effectively, I spent like an hour and a half in there, going backwards and forwards from different pools and saunas and steam rooms and things like that. And then when we fly over to this Matsuyama place, which is down on the sort of southern end of this island, and like the first thing you do, they drive us out. We have a really nice meal, but like the food is wild out there. It's really quite bizarre. Everything comes with miso soup, which isn't soup. I'm sorry, it's not soup. It's tea. It's salty tea, is what it is. And then you have obviously just random bits of sushi and fish, and everything's on you have a tray, and everything's on tiny little plates, and they give you 5, 6, even 7 plates on this little tray. So it's quite fun eating out there because everything's a bit oh, what the hell's that? And everything's weird colours as well. Doesn't look like real food, half of it, to be honest with you. So we have this meal, and then they take us out to just this area. I can't remember what it's called, Shirashima, maybe something like that. I might have a picture of it, but basically we get out there and they're like, right, you're gonna do a bike ride. So we get out this van to where the bike ride's meant to start from,
Mm.
Shimanami is what it was called, and there's a whole news team there.
Oh, right.
Like a full news team, like 5 cameras, bloke with one of these fucking triple microphones.
I guess
Um,
obviously must have been one guy there for the sound effects going. "Pachew, pachew, pachew."
They didn't have the big guy with the sound. What's the thing that they have? The big microphones in the. They didn't have one of them, but they had like translator, the whole lot, and like it was really off-putting because so like they wanted us to do interviews, but like occasionally, like obviously I've just turned up in Japan, mate, and there's some cool like the views out there were sick. It's like all these little islands with these massive bridges in between them, and the sea's like perfectly flat because it's on that Seto inland sea. And then there's just like mountains coming up out of the ocean. The scenery out there is crazy. Like it's unreal. And it was like perfect blue sky. It was quite hot, can't lie. But and then like so at one point I just like wandered off from the group to go and sort of take some pictures. And I turned around and there was just a cameraman filming me whilst I was just taking pictures. I was like, this is really weird. um, but yeah, so then we had to do this whole bike ride where at different points along the way, random blokes with cameras would just jump out the bushes and film us. And then later on, the tour guide sent us a link, and like the whole thing had been put on the news and videoed and everything. Because like I don't think they see white people out there. Like I think it's like because we were like a tour company or something. Like they just decided they were going to put it on the news. The weird thing is, my mate did another one, similar one, earlier in the year at work, and he said they did the same thing because it was when he went to like the middle of nowhere as well, where no one really goes. And I think because they just don't get tourists there, really, it's like a big thing when a group of travel agents come for some reason. So yeah, so that was sort of like the first day. Then they took us over to this little town called Doga, which was
To be
quite
fair,
cool.
as well, it might have just been filming you for a bit of B-roll. Like there could have
What
been
do you
some.
mean?
Well, there could have been something going on, like they were filming for a different reason. But
No, it wasn't.
whenever you
Like
watch.
you've watched the news story, like it's literally a news story about us.
All right, Mr. Famous. Sorry. Well, it's probably because they were
I
like
am famous in Japanese, in
in
Japan now.
Japanese.
I'm a famous celebrity in Japan now.
Andrew Ferguson.
Done 2 interviews on the news where probably nobody could understand a word I said.
Well, they
One of
must
them,
have. They,
they
they,
caught me. They caught me stand up sleeping in the sake brewery, which is hilarious. I've got the video somewhere because the
oh,
guy sent it. And they're doing like a full news. It's like again, they're filming us in this sake brewery getting toured around, and like this woman's talking, and it was so hot, and I had like 3 hours sleep the night before, and my eyes, you know, when your eyes are just going,
what were you doing?
like, I'll plead the fifth. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so my eyes are just going, and at one point they do like a close up of me from the side where you can clearly see I'm asleep, stood up. Got black rings under my eyes, like it's just really embarrassing.
Oh, that was quite good. They must have come over. They must have gone. Oh, you're from that famous podcast. You must like,
Yeah, that was what it was. Yeah, they were
that
trying to get more promo.
they have those little titles that roll in from the bottom left, and it says like local worker, and it will say Andy Ferguson,
Podcaster.
podcaster brackets the unnamed podcast.
One subscriber.
Mm.
No, so then they took us over to this little place called Doga, and like the hotel rooms are all really like small, and like the beds are like right on the floor as well. It's quite funny.
Mm.
And we had we get in there, right? First thing that happens is the tour guide, because he was basically with us the whole time. So we check into the rooms, get given our keys. He's like, right, by the way, obviously not in this accent, but you've got a traditional. It's not a kimono. There's another name for it. But it's like this long sort of dressing gown sort of looking thing. Can you please wear it for dinner? I was like, you fucking kidding me? No. He's like, oh, and also like make sure that you wear there's some slider things in your room to put on as well. Right, these sliders were like, for a start, they were flip flops, but they were flip flops with a rectangular wooden block as the shoe. So you get no end of blisters wearing these, obviously, walking around town looking like a twat. Apparently it was traditional, but like just some big guy, white guy walking around with a dressing gown on.
Yeah.
I was worried I looked like I was taking the piss, to be honest with you. So, and it's like, there's, like, you know what I mean? They don't have really tourists here. It's like everyone's looking at us because we're white, basically, which was a bit odd. And but yeah, we went to this. Then we went to this traditional like Geiko tea house sort of place. Geiko is apparently the polite word for geisha, if you don't know what it is.
For geisha?
You know what a geisha is?
I think so.
It's like they're originally they were meant to be like well, it's what they still do. It's like they're like these women. They have all the white paint on their face and hair all done up and everything.
Yeah.
And they were there. They're like mediators of entertainment. Effectively, is what they're actual meant to. That's what they're meant to do. So you go, and this is what they did with us. You go for dinner, and they basically like kind of they'll dance and they'll like obviously traditional dance, not weird sort of dancing. And they'll like sing for you.
What's weird dancing?
You know, like it's not like strippers, is it? Like,
oh right,
I mean?
okay.
But it's like traditional dance. They'll sing. They'll play like the guitar. They'll then come and sit around the table and like they actively try and start conversations around the table. It's quite interesting watching them actually because they obviously take it really seriously. But yeah,
quite a cultural difference as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at some point, like the reason the word geisha is supposedly not as like these particularly men, like they specified that they prefer to be called geikos because apparently geisha has connotations, which is I think effectively at some point in the past, some of these girls that would do this would also obviously do the extra mile as well, and rich famous people, whatever, but. It's quite interesting because it's like one of the guys there, the guy that was running, well, the guy from Japan Airlines that was not the tour guy. He was telling me about it because he's got a Japanese wife and everything. He's like, some of these like geishas back in the day were like more powerful than politicians because they had the ear of all these like different rich and famous people in the country, and they would like influence them to like do things in government and stuff like that. It's really interesting. It's almost like this secret society of powerful women. Like it's kind of quite interesting.
Especially when you've got them like sneaking around into different areas, passing information, spreading a bit of rumors.
Exactly. Like some like with emperors and samurai kings and all this sort of shit. It's well interesting.
On the note of the samurais, did you see anything samurai sword wise?
Yeah. So we went to basically in a lot of the big towns in Japan in general, we have these castles, and you'll have seen what I mean. Like it's like let me show you a picture. Hang on. They're not castles like we have in England. They're so different. You'll probably know exactly what I'm thinking of, to be honest. Where is it?
Wait, I've got the Wikipedia up for the geisha, and I've got a thing here about the gecko and the geisha and stuff.
So I think the gecko used to be like a trainee back in the day, but now because of the connotations of it, I think that's what these ones particularly said that they preferred to be called.
Yeah, well, gecko apparently, according to the Wikipedia, literally translates to woman of art.
Yeah.
Whereas geisha would transpose to like performing artist or performing woman. So I'm guessing maybe some lines got crossed, or maybe geisha started to do other things in certain areas, and that started to cause it to maybe.
We're gonna have to pause because my food's just arrived.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, so we did this whole geisha evening, which was fun. Been quite interesting. They make a bit of a tit of yourself, but it's all fun and games. But it's quite interesting, just like that whole side of it.
How do they make you make a tit of yourself?
Oh, they just make you get up and dance with them, and like you're wearing a fucking dressing gown, aren't you? So it's like it's just all a bit weird. And like they tried to make me get me to play this like Japanese, almost like guitar with. It was a bit like a ukulele, really. But obviously I can't play the guitar or the ukulele, and definitely not a Japanese version. So they all just laughed at me when I couldn't do it, which they quite enjoyed doing.
They must love
they
doing
just get
that
you
kind of
pissed.
stuff with people, though.
They'd just get you pissed as well. Like every time your drink got even close to empty, it'd be straight round to make sure it was full again. So you're just constantly drinking, and it was obviously you just got really, really drunk really, really quickly. Yeah. The other thing I was going to tell you about was the castles, wasn't I?
Yeah.
The samurai stuff.
I want to know about the castles, the samurais. Did you go see where you went to Hiroshima? So I'm guessing you saw some. Like, did you see anything to do with where the bomb got dropped?
I didn't go to Hiroshima.
Oh, I thought you said you did.
No, I went to Hiroshima.
Oh, Hiroshima. Oh, sorry.
And I went to Hiroshima. Hiroshima, it's called.
All right. Sorry, I didn't know if you went Hiroshima or the other one.
No, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Shimas. There's Nayashima, Shodashima, Hiroshima, Hiroshima, Shirashima. There's just loads of them. Mimishima, probably, I don't know. But yeah, so I went. So at the end of that day, obviously, we just went back. It was just quite a fun night, those with the geishas. And then the day after that, they took us to this like really bizarre restaurant in the middle of nowhere. And basically, you went in, there was just 4 pieces of raw tuna, like chunks of it, on the side, and they gave you a stick and set some wood on fire and made you cook it yourself. And basically, what happened was the skin around the edge burnt, and the rest of it inside was pretty much like sushi, like almost like a rare steak. But it was unbelievable. I've never had anything like it in my whole life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just unreal. But it looked so like kind of weird because it was just like they made the fire out of straw, just gave you a stick and put on it, and then just put it on a plate for you with some salt and some wasabi, and that was it basically. And and you had soy sauce on the table and stuff. But it was honestly so pang. Then we went over to that Kochi and went up to the castle. So the thing with a lot of did you see that castle I sent you in? I sent it to you, I think, didn't I? Check your WhatsApp.
Yeah, I've seen that. It looks fucking class.
Yeah. So that's like what they all look like, something like that, effectively. There's bigger ones, there's smaller ones, but what they basically are samurai training centers.
Oh, cool.
That's what they were originally for. And then over time, they'd get taken over by like the government and politicians and things like that, and made as like
it's always the government.
Seats. Yeah, so like when, because obviously I think at one time it was all like the lords and the samurais that obviously ran Japan under the emperor, and then over time obviously they've had more and more, obviously a bit like us, monarchies kind of like pushed out a bit, and the government gets more and more control. So apparently, this particular one, at some point, that one in Kochi got taken over, and was used as like less as like a samurai like a samurai hub, effectively, is what they are. And it got turned into more of like a political sort of seat, effectively, because they're really defensible as well. Like they're always up high, they're really hard to get to. And as you're going around it, they've got some mad stuff because they've got these like really like high vertical walls to get up to the castle itself. And like as you're in the castle, there's all these holes in the walls where like people would just drop rocks and boiling oil down the side of the walls and shit like that. It's kind of quite interesting. And they're really hard to get up and down as well, like because the steps on them are so steep. And if you're over the head height of 6 foot, as you walk up the steps, if you don't like duck your head right down, you will clip your head straight on the floor above. It's just everything is tiny there. You'd have probably been unconscious on the second day, mate. Honestly, because I smacked my head on so many things, and I'm only 6'1".
Yeah, to be fair, that does sound like it could have been problematic for me.
Yeah, it would be. Honestly, even just going into a restaurant, you'd have been having to like bend right the way down. All the flipping doors are less than 6 foot tall. Yeah, it was good. And then we went out for this cool meal in Kochi that night. And then they do more drinking games. You'd be surprised how much the Japanese like to drink. I was. They love it. They're just wreckheads. But yeah, then obviously after we had that, so I've actually bought a version of the drinking game back with me.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you have all these different cups, effectively, and they've got different faces on them, on the bottom of them. It's really hard to explain, but they're like weird shapes. So like you either can't stand them up, meaning you can't put it down, until you finish a drink.
Oh yeah.
Or they have a really annoying hole in the bottom that you have to plug with your finger, which again means you can't put it down until you finish the drink. So
you could cover that with a bit of paper, though, surely, or something.
No, it's there on purpose, part of the drinking game.
No, I know, but I'm saying like I feel like I could get around that. I could cheese it. Like
they're not massive cups, to be fair. They range from like a small shot glass size to maybe a bit bigger than a small shot glass. I don't know, like to a big shot glass. They're not like big cups, but effectively you get this. There's like this dice, I guess, that's a spinning top. So you spin the dice like a Beyblade, and then whatever way the dice points at is the person who has to drink. But whatever face of the dice it lands on, that's the face of the cup you have to drink out of.
All right.
And then whoever gets done with it, they then get to spin the dice the next time. And the idea is you spin it and don't just get yourself repeatedly with the worst shaped cup and the biggest one, which is what I did. So by the time we were halfway through, like 2-3 rounds into this, I was pissed out of my face, shotting sake. I'd had about 9. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's not a high alcohol. But it's like 16% in it, sake. So it's like 9 shots of it in the space of about 5 minutes.
How many times? How many times did you get yourself with it?
Oh, I got myself probably 3 times. But everyone else seemed to get me as well. And again, all the Japanese people found this hilarious. Every time I got caught with it, they all clapped and laughed.
Yeah, but it becomes one of those. It becomes one of those things like when you're doing like Ring of Fire and all those other ones when someone keeps getting caught out by the same thing, and then everyone's just buzzing when they get caught out again, because obviously
it's basically like that.
As someone starts to get absolutely hammered, they start making more mistakes, so they get caught out more, and so they get more drunk.
It's a cool drinking game. I'll bring it up with me next time I come up.
Yeah.
Because you could do it. I mean, it'd probably be quite a dangerous game to play with real spirits, but you could do it with like, if you had like tequila rose or something like that.
You could play it with the fun ones.
What do you mean? What, with vodka and fucking?
No, with like the sours and stuff like that. Or
yeah,
like
exactly. You'd probably want to play it with something like that, unless you were ready to get absolutely annihilated in the space of 10 minutes. Because it's very fast paced. Because it's basically just spin the dice. Oh, what do you get? You pour a drink into the cup and then you drink it, and like that's it. And then the next bit, and then you spin the dice after you drank it, and then someone else has to do it, and it just goes round rapid. And obviously, the other thing is you have to try when you. I mean, there will be a way to cheat not getting drunk in it if you just like the ones with the hole in, you just let your finger go, I guess. But then it's a waste of sake, then, that isn't it?
Yeah, we're not here to waste sake. We're doing things by the books.
Exactly. So it was good, and the woman who basically again, the woman who when this started at the dinner, it was the woman who owned the restaurant, who was I reckon 4'8", stood up, but probably one of the most terrifying looking women I've ever seen in my entire life at that height.
Why does she look terrifying?
She just looked nails, mate. Do you know what
I
mean?
Okay.
Like when you get like an old Asian lady that looks like she'd just be able to murder you, even though she's 5'6", or well, not even
intimidating.
Like yeah, she just looked. There was something a little bit intimidating about her, and obviously, say one of the older bloke that was on he was British, the guy that was working for Japan Airlines. He effectively sort of one when it was his turn on one was like, no, I can't drink anymore. I'm getting drunk. I can't get drunk. She was like, no, you played a game. And he was kind of a bit terrified because it was like she was going to kill him if he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think you realise, mate. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was literally like that. But it was sick, and she basically drank just as much as us, and then went off and carried on working. And she didn't even look remotely drunk.
Well, there you go. They're made out of strong stuff.
Yeah, they are. She's having a good time though. She found it quite funny watching us all get drunk. But yeah, so that was like, God knows where I'm at now, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, so then that night we went out after. That's when we went to that little, I can't remember what they're called, like Yarakuzi or something like that bar, the little thin narrow bar. So we ended up being out till like 2 a.m, and then the next day, we had to get up really early for a start, which was brutal. I had to drive to. Where did we drive to? Oh, we had to drive out into the middle of the countryside. And it all looks like the flipping French Alps out there. It's mad. We got out there and there was like some famous vine bridge that we had to like get a picture of and see, and they made us cross over it.
All right. When you say like a vine bridge, is it like a natural bridge that's like made from? I'm guessing it's not.
It's like wooden. It's like a wooden bridge, like that's been made out of vines, and they have to remake it every like 10 years or something because the vines get
knackered.
Yeah, but apparently, like they first started, it was something to do with some war, but like hundreds of years ago or something, and then basically the soldiers from one army crossed this big valley, and the valley looked crazy, and they made it out of a vine bridge so that they could then burn it once they got across, and leave whoever was chasing them on the other side.
All right.
And then it's obviously some famous thing in the area because they now just rebuild the Vine Bridge every time, so it's there. But completely unsafe. The bloody planks on the bottom were probably 2 inches thick. The gaps between the planks nearly 6 inches thick.
Oh God.
So you just honestly, I'm terrible with heights anyway. They made us cross it, and like no safety equipment or anything like that. It was just honestly terrifying. I was like, you probably couldn't have got. Maybe it wasn't 6 inches thick. Maybe. I mean, you probably couldn't have got a fully grown human fall through it, but you felt like you could when you were walking across it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, with your nose, you'd have just clung onto the plank in front, probably. But
ha 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 ha. As always, so funny, Mr. Ferguson.
But then, so we go to the other side. There's another news team waiting for us. So somewhere on Japanese news, there's me being an absolute pussy crossing a bridge. And then they walk us down to this little waterfall bit, right? And on the way, there's a stall selling just fish on a stick, like whole fish on a stick, skin, eyes, everything. God knows how. Like, they can't have deboned it. It must be full of bones. So I don't know how you fucking eat it without swallowing bones. Because you manage to just eat it off the stick. But bear in mind it's 35-degree temperature and it's really humid. They're just outside, hanging up, like just in a little stand outside, which stinks. And with a hangover, is not ideal. So, I nearly threw up 3 times on the way to this waterfall. Then they really treated us. They took us to a local restaurant where they served us the fish on the stick. for breakfast.
Well, there you go. That sounds good.
It wasn't. Not with a hangover. I had a few bites of it, but I couldn't stomach it. So I had my miso salty tea instead, which was great. And to be fair, they do really good chicken out there.
Oh, do they?
Fried chicken is really good. I will say that.
Well, they have fried chicken at Christmas.
Yes, well, I've heard the story about why this is as well.
Yeah, they do Christmas KFC.
KFC apparently in the 80s marketed it like that because it's something to do with expats.
All right.
Because they don't do Christmas dinner over there.
No.
So back in I think it might have been something from one of the wars, you know. But like, basically people would go on Christmas and buy like fried chicken, effectively. And I think they had KFCs or maybe at this point. Maybe it wasn't as far back as the wars. I'm sure it's I don't know, I can't really remember the exact full story. Well, and it was something to do with effectively people from Western world. The fried chicken was the closest thing to a cooked turkey. So they would then KFC basically capitalised on it. And there was a thing about the abbreviation of KFC. They redid, because obviously it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, but there's something about
What do they call it? JFC, Japanese fried chicken.
No, it was still KFC, but it was like something to do with Christmas.
Christmas fried chicken?
Maybe. Japan. Can tell I'm under much sleep when I was doing this.
Wow, KFC's third largest market is Japan. That's actually wild.
It does not surprise me at all. Like, fried chicken is huge over there.
It's USA, China, then Japan. That is not what I would have expected. I would have expected some European country was just smashing in loads of KFC. Well, how wrong I am.
No. I can't find the little slogan. But they had a little slogan for it that was different to the normal Kentucky Fried Chicken.
What was the slogan?
I can't remember. That's what I'm trying to find out. Can't find it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, it's wild. Like, so basically, all the 7-Elevens over there. You ever been to Asia at all?
No, I've never been to any Asian country. It's on the list.
Weirdly, 7-Elevens have like taken over the whole of Asia. They must have some weird franchise deal out there because they're like every 200 meters down the road. It was like it in Thailand when I was there. Apparently, it's the same in Vietnam and Malaysia and these sorts of places. And it was like it in Japan as well, which I didn't kind of expect from Japan. Weirdly, there's just 7-Elevens everywhere.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't even think I've ever been to a 7-Eleven, and I've done a good stint in America.
Well, they're an American company, but I don't think they're as popular in America as they are in other places, by the sounds of it. Which is a bit odd. So yeah, anyway, so if you ever, what I found from Japan was you were constantly hungry because their food has absolutely no calories in it. So whatever you eat, it's just like 10 minutes later you'll be hungry again. So I, on a regular basis, just nip down to the 7-Eleven where they have a full grill with fried chicken in it. Every convenience store has fried chicken available, hot, ready to go, and it's amazing. It's better than KFC.
Well, that just sounds pretty much like sounds like what's all you need in life, isn't it?
I mean, I was so happy it hurt. Yeah. And they have basically fruit juice that's 10% alcohol in all the convenience stores as well.
Oh, do they? So
And
like
it
a
just tastes
cider,
like
basically.
squash. Well, it just tastes like squash, but it's like 10% alcohol.
So basically, you went to Japan, one of the most like interesting places in terms of history and heritage, and all you did was smashing fried chicken and get pissed.
You're not far wrong. I did go around a couple. We did end up going to like 2 monasteries. I stayed a night in a monastery one night, which was quite interesting. I couldn't get any photos of this night though because we weren't allowed to take our phones into like anywhere other than our bedroom.
Oh, really?
It was like a Buddhist monastery,
Oh, okay.
and they made us do like a full ceremony and everything. We had to like light a candle and like float it down this river. It was really cool. And like the whole Japanese garden and everything, and all the decorations in these like temples are crazy, mate. Like so much like gold and all these things hanging from the ceiling and everything. It's crazy. It all looks mad. But yeah, we weren't allowed to take any pictures there, really annoyingly, which is a bit peak. I did, however, went to a different temple where like this head monk guided us round in the day, did a little ceremony with us, but that was filmed by a news team again. And then we then had to go to the bottom bit of the temple and do a meditation session where I have never looked so uncomfortable in my entire life.
Why? Because you couldn't meditate.
Well, one, it was 35 degrees, there was no aircon, and it was humid as hell, so I'm dripping with sweat.
Right.
Two, and there wasn't even any wind. Two, they made us sit in that cross-legged position on like a hard floor for 10 minutes straight whilst they videoed us meditating. And I basically just progressively got more and more sweaty and looked more and more uncomfortable the longer it lasted.
I see.
So, and then afterwards, they decided they wanted to do an interview with me, where I had 5 of them all with cameras in my face.
Okay.
And I don't even remember what I said, to be honest. So it probably wasn't great.
Is there any footage of this?
There was.
Could you get your hands on it? Could you get a hold of it?
Potentially. I'd have to go back through everything in my thingy. I won't do it now. I'll have a look.
I
I
would
did
love.
have a video.
I
I did
love.
have a link to one of the videos, but then I did try and show someone asked to see it the other day, and I went on it, and it looks like the news story has expired.
Oh, that's a shame.
And they're obviously only up there for a certain amount of time. So like I tried to go on it, and it just said the video wasn't. Well, I think it said the video wasn't available, but it's all in Japanese, so you can't tell, can you?
I was going to say, did you read it? Like, how did you know?
Well, it just had like a weird looking kind of looked like there was an error message, and I was like, it's like when you get one of those it's still a web page, but there's just nothing on it anymore. So it's obviously like that maybe the news site only has like so much they can put on, and after a couple of days they just get rid of it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I bet I can find at least some of them. Might not be the one of me being interviewed, but I can probably find some of
It'd
them.
be good to have some of the footage for that. I'd love to see you doing that kind of stuff.
You know. Well,
Okay.
I'll try and send it. Yeah, some other point.
So what do you do for the rest of the Japan trip then?
Oh, that's like 4 days worth of stuff right there. And then the last day we went to Shodoshima and Naoshima.
Okay.
Naoshima is an art island, which I think is a bit of a gimmick. It's just an island. It's quite a nice island, don't get me wrong, but there's not really anything there apart from a couple of art galleries. This weird art museum, which was all like really like modern art, was a bit weird. Can't lie, and it felt like I was in a James Bond lair from a James Bond villain because it was like in the ground and it was all like really hard concrete walls and everything. It was just a bit bizarre. And then we
You
went
mean like
to
a villain's lair?
yeah, a James Bond villain's lair. That's what I said.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they took us to this Shodoshima, which is really cool because apparently they do loads of film sets there. So they took us on this weird film set, which was quite interesting. And then at one point, this Japanese woman that worked there, was obviously just hung touring us around. They took us into this little classroom. I don't know if you saw my Instagram. I'm sat in a seat, and it's like the smallest seat you've ever seen in your entire life. I genuinely thought it was going to break.
Oh god, no, I didn't actually see that.
Yeah, it literally looks like it's going to. Well, I felt like it was going to break in front of me. It looked so uncomfortable when we sat in it. But yeah, and then apparently there's a famous film called 24 Samurais or something like that.
All right.
That was apparently filmed there. It was quite interesting. It was like a fake movie theatre and all these fake buildings and all sorts of shit. It's really cool. So we went around that. And then, and then this little Japanese woman comes up to me. She's like, "Oh, have you ever?" She worked for Japan Airlines. She was kind of following us around the last day.
Mm.
And she goes, "Oh, have you ever watched some Japanese films before?" I was like, "I watched Pokemon." She was like, "Oh, okay."
It's a good film, to be fair.
Great films, mate. Great films. But I did find out, actually. Do you know why in Dragon Ball, when they go Super Saiyan, their hair goes upright?
No, I didn't. No, I don't.
It's apparently a sign of being angry in Japanese.
Oh, is it? Your hair going on end?
Yeah, because I used the word hair raising at one point. I can't remember why, we were talking about something, but I was like, and they were like, this woman was quite confused. And the guy explained, he was like, "Oh, it means, a bit nervous, a bit scared sort of thing." And she was like, "Oh, that's weird, because in Japanese, hair raising is angry."
Yeah.
And then she was like, like Dragon Ball. And I was like, "What? No way." And she's like, "Yeah, when their hair goes up like that, it's because they're angry."
Yeah, but I mean,
So
I
then,
was going to say, they must know about that, culturally speaking, because it's got to be a massive thing for them.
yeah, I mean, it's huge over there, bro. I literally in Tokyo Airport, the first thing I saw as I walked, there's this walkway from the airport to the airport hotel. They were selling Dragon Ball boxes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just a pair of, just a full set. So your boxes, the whole thing was just Goku's face, just on your dick. Bit off-putting, can't lie.
That sounds that sounds perfect to me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, there was loads of Dragon Ball stuff we saw. I went into a restaurant and they had bloody Shenron hanging from the ceiling.
What hanging from the ceiling?
The dragon out of Dragon Ball.
I've never watched Dragon Ball.
What do you mean you never watched Dragon Ball?
I just never watched it. It never caught me. I know for the kind of person that I am, I definitely should have.
I mean, it's amazing. I'll be watching it recently, mate.
No,
Anyway,
I never got involved in any of the anime stuff. Actually, that's a lie. There is other anime stuff I've been involved in. Obviously,
yeah.
but anyway, as you were.
So then on that note, with about the hair, so I thought, I wonder if there's a reason why they go blonde as well. So I googled it to see why they go blonde.
Why not ask the people there? You can get the in-person, authentic answer.
No, she didn't know. She didn't know. So I asked her, and I was like, "Oh," she was like, "Oh, I don't know actually." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I googled it. Turns out, when he was drawing it, it saved him a lot of time not to have to colour in Goku's hair black.
That makes sense. That's quite funny.
I was really disappointed by that. I can't lie. After finding out about the hair standing up thing, I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool! There must be a really cool reason why they go blonde, like an old symbolic, Japanese thing." No, he just couldn't be asked to colour Goku's hair in.
Well, it's the same reason why superheroes have capes.
Why?
Because when you're trying to draw in a comic and you're trying to demonstrate movement, if you've got someone and they've not got a cape on, it just looks like they're stood midair. It looks like they're just frozen in midair. So
I know what you mean.
they used to give a lot of the superheroes capes because then you can draw the cape billowing that implies movement. It makes them look like stuff's happening.
And you can tell what direction they're moving in and all that sort of stuff from it, I guess, can't
Yeah,
you?
exactly that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that like that's why all superheroes have capes, because of how
Interesting.
that
I
stuff
knew
works.
that.
Yeah, and that's why
I just thought because capes look cool.
no, and that's why in the Incredibles they have that scene with Edna where when he goes to go get his he goes to get his new haircut done. No, not his new haircut, sorry. His new super suit made by Edna. And she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, do you want to have the cape? And she's like, Thunderbolt. And she runs through everything and talks about how no capes. Yeah, it's for that reason because, well, yeah, like I said, you can't have capes. Capes are dangerous.
I mean,
And
they would be.
and
They'd
they're
be so easy to strangle you if you had a cape.
yeah, and
See,
they're
down capes in
and they're
Dragon Ball.
impractical.
But what they do in Dragon Ball instead is he does all the weird stuff around the outside of them, doesn't they, when they're flying? So I guess they don't want an alternative. Anyway,
Exactly.
so moving on. So then we did all that, and then I went to the sake in the what do you call it, brewery on the last day as well. And we had lunch there, which was quite nice. The lunch at the sake brewery was amazing, but it came with about 20 shots of sake because she wanted us to try every single different flipping one that she ever made. So I was pissed by lunchtime on the last day as well. Not quite, but wasn't far off. Then spent 30 quid on a bottle of sake, which I wasn't sure how I was going to pack and get home, but I managed it. Then we went to that soy sauce place, and then get this: there's an island in Japan that's been designed like Greece.
Do you mean like to mimic like a Greek island?
Yeah. It's got like a Greek church, and they've got loads of olive fields all over it.
Has it got a load of waiters with hairy arms?
Didn't notice that. But the weird thing that people do on this island is they hire broomsticks and take pictures of them jumping in the air, so it makes it look like they're flying.
Oh, to be fair, a lot of Harry Potter was filmed in Greece. I think one of the scenes where they actually crash into the Whomping Willow, that was actually
Oh yeah,
that was actually filmed on part of Corfu.
there's supposedly a reason for it. She told me. I think it was something to do with there's some famous like cartoon or something where some woman used to go around and deliver stuff around Japan on a broomstick, and it's like a sitcom or something, I guess. I don't know. But I can't really remember the actual details of it, to be honest with you. I was just literally being dragged around at this point, to be honest with you. I was absolutely shattered. And then they started giving us olive chocolate, and I was like, right, this is too much now.
Well, it sounds like it's been difficult for you to take any information in because you were only sober for about flipping 10 minutes of the holiday.
Well, that's not always my fault. I had a not. I went to bed at 8 o'clock the night in the bloody, what do you call it, in the monastery because the flipping ceremony finished at 8 and there was nothing to do. So we were just like, I was like, right, I'm going to use this as a day where I can actually go to sleep for a bit and not be fed alcohol till 11 o'clock at night. I didn't pay it. I didn't spend a single penny the whole time I was there, other than buying that drinking game and the sake.
Not bad.
Everything was, even when the night when we went out, the guy that worked for Japan Airlines was like, "No, Japan Airlines are paying for this." It's like sound.
So how does it work? Why did Japan Airlines pay for it?
So they obviously want to encourage more tourism to Japan.
Oh, is that why you were being filmed?
What do you mean?
For the tourism?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That makes so much more sense. I couldn't figure it out. So the whole thing was like a sponsored ride.
Yeah.
And so they're taking you around all these places so they can do one of those like B-roll things where, you see it all the time where it's like, lose yourself in Japan, and then it can scan and it will show you like absolutely, well, maybe not you, but it shows you
Me
all these.
dripping with sweat trying to meditate. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You dripping with sweat trying to meditate. Then a video of you almost falling asleep, stood up. Then
yeah, find yourself in Japan. You
then
stood up
then
asleep in a second for a hairnet
then,
on.
then you sat with a bunch of Japanese men, knob out, just chilling in a sauna.
Yeah. Well, on the bit about you on the onsens where you have to go naked. So get this: if you have tattoos, you're not allowed to do it
Why?
because in Japan, if you've got tattoos, then you are potentially linked to the Yakuza, and it's a sign of being a criminal. So
Right.
barely anyone has tattoos over there.
Oh, that's interesting. Obviously, I guess.
Only the Yakuza have tattoos. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's changing more now, but I think it's like traditionally
Yeah.
you
Well,
wouldn't get tattoos unless you were part of the Yakuza or like the criminal gangs, basically.
I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm pretending I know everything about Japan, but I'm guessing from a cultural standpoint, that could be one of those things where maybe they had a culture where like, maybe tattoos are more of a Western thing.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're not, but that's a bit odd because obviously in other parts of Asia, it's all like the stick and poke tattoos, and there's all
Yeah.
the Buddhist tattoos and stuff. So it's a weird thing. Japan is very, I will say, because like when you go to like Thailand, Vietnam, obviously they have slight differences, but a lot of them are probably quite similar, aren't they?
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like Japan is very different to pretty much everywhere else in Asia. Like it's not like even the food is wildly different. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no, you get a bit of curry and it's obviously rice still, but it just seemed very different to like the food I had in Thailand and Kuala Lumpur and things like that.
Well, that's what happens when you get nuked. it,
Right.
it changes a lot of things about a culture.
Very true. Well,
Now all everyone does is eat fried chicken and smashing rice.
it's true. Fried chicken and rice, mate. I tell you, I had a lot of that. Yeah. So then last night, so then after that, they then took us from it. The other thing that's good about Japan is you don't have to give a fuck about how you eat. Table manners are not a thing over there.
Okay.
Because when you eat with chopsticks, and like everything you eat comes in like a broth sort of thing. So like, do you know if you was in a restaurant in England,
Yeah.
and so they gave you noodles in like this broth, and you were slurping your noodles up like that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, once you finished all the noodles, you pick the bowl up and drink all the juice out of it. Right? Would that
Hmm.
be like, that's kind of like socially unacceptable in England. They get offended if you don't drink it in Japan.
Oh, really?
So they were like, because I obviously would just eat the noodles or whatever, and then like the Japanese guys, mate, they're just like their head is in their bowl and they're like this with the chopsticks and the noodles, and at the end they'll just pick up the bowl and just drink it like that, like all the way down, neck what's left in it, and and then I left the broth in one time just because I didn't know if I would, with a bunch of random people, try to be polite. I'm not going to like start necking my bloody plate up when I'm out for dinner. And the Japanese guy was like, "No, you finish, you finish." I was like, "What?" He was like, "No, drink it." I was like, "Okay, sound."
That's pretty
But
cool
if they
though,
actually go,
to have like such a cultural difference.
yeah, it is. It's really cool. But they
Wait,
do all wait for each other to eat as well in Japan, which they don't do in most other places in Asia.
what do you mean?
Everyone just starts to eat. Well, when I was in Thailand, there was like a thing. It was like they always used to tell you, the Thai people, they'd be like, "We just bring stuff out when it's ready, so don't wait. Like it's like not normal to wait for everyone's food to come out."
Yeah, well, there's a Thai place in York that's that where you go and order and it's not like a starters and mains. It's just you pick a load of stuff and you just eat whatever comes when it comes.
Yeah, that's how it works in Thailand. That's literally how like all the restaurants are in Thailand. And like it's weird. Like they tell you don't wait because you'll be waiting fucking 25 minutes for someone else's food come out. Sometimes someone will have completely finished their meal before the other person's finished the bloody starter.
Yeah.
There's a bit what, but in Japan they do wait for you, which is weird.
Now,
Like I said, very different to a lot of other places in Asia, I'd say.
fair. So the question I've got to ask then is, did you get to use or wield a samurai sword at any point?
I didn't. Oh, actually, I did. I guess you could say I wielded one, but I didn't get to use one. No.
What do you mean?
There was one in the entrance to the castle. That's why I was telling you about the castle in the first place. When we went to the castle, at the entrance there was a big like samurai soup, and there was a sword at the bottom, and you could pick it up and get a picture with it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was obviously blunted. To be fair, it wasn't. I touched it with my finger. It wasn't actually. Didn't cut me or anything.
Yeah, well, I imagine that they don't give you
A proper samurai sword is meant to be like crazy sharp.
Yeah.
That cut you to touch.
Oh mate, I watched a video of a guy who went to like one of the old like heritage samurai places that make some of the best swords ever. And he was going through the breakdown of everything they do, and I'll be honest, I won't be able to remember everything specifically, but one of the things that was crazy is obviously now you've got loads of modern techniques that you can use to get you've got loads of modern techniques that you can do to get like different things, and like like you can to like refine metals and make them pure and stuff, but obviously they never had that back then because obviously technology. But what they would do is with how they would make it is there was the riverbeds would like pull iron through them, and it would sit in the sands, and so they would get the bits of iron from the sands, and then like in really small amounts, so it would take ages to collect it, but the iron that they got was like of a really high quality, and so they would do that as a part of it. And then yeah, so like it's just all these like little things that went into it, and it was just so cool, like getting more of an understanding about like what made the samurai sword so good. And obviously for the time they were like wildly ahead of everything in terms of like yeah, like what came with it. It was just really cool to see all the stuff
Very
about it.
specific to that style of fighting, though. I imagine, like, I don't think they really had. Did they really have horses? I guess they probably did actually. They did, but like, yeah, I don't know why it would have been so different to the sort, because obviously in England you had the big long swords, didn't you, back in the day?
It's the quality and how they were made, and also the areas or the way in which you went to fight them. Again, I'm not a sword expert, so I'm sure I'm going to be wrong about this, but as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure that that with the swords and like what they do with like the cutting and stuff, like samurai swords are supposed to be swung across to like cut through someone, whereas long swords you can give someone a bit of a poke type thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is. They are meant to be stabbing swords rather than slashing swords, I guess.
So,
I guess you can do it with both, but obviously just a lot faster as well. Probably different sort of style of armor and all that sort of stuff has probably got something to do with it.
Yeah, well, that was the problem with the crossbow. The crossbow caused a real big problem.
Why?
Well, because it basically invalidated everything. Because
what do you mean?
Well, because but basically armor and like warfare and stuff up until the invention of the crossbow, bows weren't very particularly good at getting through armor, and it made for a lot of combat and stuff, and also it was very difficult to be a precise archer. And then the crossbow got invented. It could fire bolts, heavier bolts, a lot easier, a lot more effectively, that could go through a lot of armor and do a lot more damage with a lot less effort. And it invalidated a lot of stuff at the time because well, basically, it just made anyone who was even slightly competent a pretty lethal with minimum effort, and it made a lot of other stuff invalid in terms of armors and stuff that people could use because a lot of the crossbow bolts could go through it.
Well, I might like chainmail probably went straight out the window.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There was loads of stuff where it just, well, as I said, invalidated a lot of stuff that people were using at the time. But yeah, like I've always just thought the Japanese, like the swords, the samurai stuff, was so cool.
I do love like the Japanese sort of culture
And the architecture as well, because it's just so different.
Yeah, I mean, the ancient architecture. I mean that sort of like classical, like the castles, and when you go around some of the old towns and stuff like that, and they've got the old classical Japanese style tile roofs and everything. They're cool, but like a lot of the cities don't look like that anymore. I can't lie. Like even Kochi had this big castle, and then you like look out from the castle and the buildings were kind of crap. Can't lie. Like they were tall, but they looked like a bit like those fucking those like blocks of flats you get on the outskirts of London. It's all a bit like that. So
You got to treat yourself to a nice London block of flats, did you?
yeah, basically it was some of the but like then you'll like go walk around a little village town and they'll have like these 2-story buildings with like I say the tiled roofs and baobab trees out not baobab what are those like weird trees with the like round the people what are those trees that people like look after.
I don't know what you're on about. I like a bonsai tree.
Yeah, those look it they
Like the
seem to
small
look like
trees.
yeah, but like they're like big looking ones in
Oh,
ones that look like they might not be the same sort of tree, but they look a bit like a bonsai tree, but they're big.
maybe there's a big fine. So they had some really big bonsai trees.
Yeah, let me picture. Um, well, maybe not, but I'll send you this. You can see what I mean.
Lovely. Okay. Well, look, it sounds like a hell of a lot of cool stuff's happened over there in Japan, and you've had an absolute blast of it.
It was
Uh,
sick. Oh, the only thing I would say is now I just bare want to go to like the proper places. Like it was cool going to like these little islands and stuff, and like getting like boats between the islands and ferries and things like. I felt like I was in Pokemon. I can't lie. You know, when like Ash is like hopping between islands on the ferries and stuff like that. Like I genuinely felt like
yeah.
that. But it's I obviously that trip was a bit. It's kind of one of those sorts of things you probably want to do if you've been to Japan loads of times before. Whereas from
Mm.
our first time, I didn't get to see Tokyo. I didn't get to see Kyoto. Didn't get to see Osaka. So that's what I want to do now. Like, I want to go back and do those places at some point. But it was quality.
That's fair. When do you reckon you'll? What do you reckon you'll go back?
Yeah, defo. Probably, maybe not next year, but I might try and plan another trip the year after next. I do also want to try and go to China at some point.
Oh, I'd love to go to China, man.
So
Before World War
just
Three kicks off as well.
yeah, well, I really want to go see that bloody. Have you ever seen the Xinjiang National Forest?
No.
I
What
don't know
is?
if that's actually how you pronounce it, but it's where you know in Avatar the floating mountains.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what that's based on.
Oh, is it?
Let me. It might be Zhang Ji. Yeah, Zhang Jiaji. I think it's called.
Zhangjiajie.
Hang on. Forward you this. Although I
Oh,
don't know
oh
how I hack
wow.
it. I don't know how I hack it with my fear of heights, but
Oh yeah, but if you go with me, I'll just push you through it.
yeah, but it's all like there's apparently like loads of like networks of like bridges and like glass walkways and things that go across the
Oh,
park.
that'll be where you see all those videos of those people that are like walking across them, and it looks like
Probably,
insane.
probably, yeah. It looks nuts, bro. Like it just looks so cool. I think so. I bear. That's one of the places I bear want to go to. But the annoying thing is, not a lot of tours actually go to them. But I mean, mate, I just found a picture of that flipping bridge.
Oh, lovely. Send it to me. I want to see this. I'll have to have some of the photos and stuff rotating to go through this.
See that. You might have to like actually Google it, get proper photos, but at least you can see what I'm looking at.
Oh, here we go. Lovely. Well, either way. So, out of 10, what you giving it?
Oh, definite 10.
Definite 10. Lovely.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest places I've ever been to. Definitely, like just like all the cultural, like you say, how different the place is to everything.
Yeah.
I only got like a snapshot. It's one of those places I've never come away from somewhere I wanted to go back instantly so much.
Yeah.
Which is like, because you come a lot of time you come away from places you're like, oh, I'm glad I saw that. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't. It's not the first place I want to go back to. But
No.
I honestly would go back there next year if I could.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's just being able to afford it.
I guess it's double look. I guess it's one of the things that makes it such a good place.
It's just so cool. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I did obviously when I was. I think I'm a bit of like a little bit of a geek about it because, like, obviously I watched so much of that sort of like TV when I was a kid, that like Japanese TV, and I like all the Japanese PlayStation games and stuff like that. So I just kind of like geeked out on it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, but to be fair, Japanese people, they make some damn good games.
They do, like honestly. But the thing is, like, they're actually like some of the characters in these games. Like when you meet people there, it's like, oh my god, I didn't think people were actually like you. Like,
what the hell does that mean?
well, for example, you remember? Did you watch Squid Game?
I didn't know. That was Korean.
Never watched Squid Game. I know it was Korean.
So you're dangerously close to being a racist here.
No, but I think Korea and Japan is quite similar because what I've been told is like the food and everything's like Korea has similar food to Japan, and it's all like they're obviously very close as well. Like it's half an hour on it's a couple of hours on a ferry, I think, from
it's not far.
Busan, I think, to Nagasaki, so it's not far at all. So they've obviously got some link there, but like because I can't think of another example from a film other than this. Oh, you've not watched Squid Game, so you won't know.
No, I won't.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're really emotive people. I'll just put it that way. Like, they're very emotive and like it's sort of they make a lot of body shapes and when they're talking and it's just quite funny. Like I can't explain it, but you'd have to see it to know what I mean.
No, I feel you. I feel you. I get where you're coming from.
For example, like we had a driver who couldn't speak much English. The driver didn't speak English, but every time we stopped somewhere, he'd come running over with his camera and then be like, kind of like running around going ho 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 like this, like taking pictures of us, but like making noises like that. And it was like. I know you see that sort of stuff in like cartoons, but I didn't think like people in Japan would actually be that extreme with it. Like, I didn't think people would actually be. I thought it would be like an exaggeration in the cartoons. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Whereas I don't think it is. Like, I think there's genuinely people that are like that. Well, there are. Like, it's just funny.
No, I get more of an understanding of what you mean now.
Yeah, I've kind of got my point across finally. It's hard to explain without seeing what I'm up to.
Oh, mate, to be fair, I tell you one thing. Like, so obviously we went to Corfu, and obviously on the note, if you say the driver, so we went to Corfu, and I know there's that old joke about like Greek bus drivers being terrible, and like because they just bomb it around all the roads and stuff. But honestly, I don't think I've ever been more scared for my life than the transfer we got from the airport to the hotel. Like our driver, I'm guessing, obviously he was speaking in Greek when he started. He must have said, "Hold on, lads, I think I'm about to set a record here," because he absolutely tore it around. And it was mental. Like honestly, he was going so fast, and even on some of the corners and stuff like that. I'm guessing he thought, well, I've got to get like he must have been set on like to have it done by a certain time because he was taking the racing line round every bend, like full on into the other lane to try and cut back across. This guy was not going to mess about. He was here to do it properly.
When we used to go to Greece when I was a kid, they do drive like maniacs in Greece, I think. Because when we used to go to Greece when I was a kid, I think we went like 4 years in a row. Because obviously my stepmom's Greek. Every year we saw a car crash either on the way to or from the airport. How many car crashes have you witnessed in England? They happen, but how many have you ever witnessed?
Not many, I will say.
4 of the 5 car crashes I've ever witnessed in my life were all in Greece.
In fact, I don't think, as in like you saw the crash happen.
Literally witnessed it happen in front of me on the road, and my dad had to swerve out the way of the wreckage.
Oh my God, no! I could definitely say, I've never witnessed one because of all the
No.
driving I do for work. I see the aftermath, and and there was one that happened where all of a sudden we stopped dead for like 40 minutes, and then we could go, and then literally like I don't know, like 200 meters further down the road, around the corner, the wreckage, and I was like, oh my God, that must have just happened as we were coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't think of a time when I've ever really witnessed one in the UK, in England.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen one in Spain, and then I've seen at least 4 in Greece. I know that because I remember 4 of them. One of them was a motorbike, mate. It was fucking horrendous. And I
Oh
witnessed it
God.
from the balcony of the house. There was this height, like the house that my dad used to have was up on this hill. And it like kind of looked out towards the sea. But in between the seafront town and the house was this big highway. And this motorbike must have been going well over 100. It was absolutely flying. And it just basically lost control and went head on into the car coming the other way.
God, that's kind of mad.
And I just watched it from like the balcony out the house. It's like it was fucking wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a load of stuff like that. And like to be fair, there's even the old joke, I think it was. Like I'm just gonna 1 second. Yeah, but there's some old, I can't remember what it was. There's an old joke where basically like three men get to the gates of heaven and they're speaking to Peter, and he's like, why should you get into heaven? What have you done to demonstrate your worth or whatever? And he's like, oh, okay. And then like the first guy goes up and he says, I was a priest. I've been a priest my whole life. I've helped people in the community. I've worked with other people to like, to get people to pray and do stuff like this, and like all for God. So load of the work that I've done's got people praying. And he goes to the next man. He goes, what have you done to get prayers for God? And he's like, oh, I run a big community and I help out and I lead a big prayer and I go through all this stuff. And he like explains that he's even better than the man before him. And then he goes to the third guy and he goes, what have you done to get people to prayer? And he goes, to pray, and he goes, I'm a Greek bus driver. And the other two go, oh, no worries, go through, because obviously everyone's praying when he's like whapping it around on the cliffsides. But yeah, there's a load of good stuff like that. But anyway, right, well, I think that's been an awful lot of talking, and God knows what I'm going to have to edit this down to. We're going to have to definitely...
I know, yeah, you can have a lot to edit there.
I'm going to have to start making
It's nearly 3 hours that we've been on the phone, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. But either way, I'll have a good flick through everything. And I'll edit it down to something. They say it's the bumper Japanese episode.
It is. Well, nice to catch up with you anyway, mate.
Oh no, definitely. But we'll plan something proper for next time. Plus, hold on, let me just hold on. Yeah. So, thanks for listening, everyone. Oh, thanks for listening, one guy that subscribed. Which
do we only have one listener, or do we have one subscriber?
One subscriber and one listener. He is at the National Flea. So thank you, the National Flea, for tuning in. If you've made it through however long this has been,
yeah,
Godspeed.
me ranting about Japan for an hour.
Not ranting. I've just been explaining your travels. It's been good.
Yeah.
Right, lovely.
No, it was good to be fair. No, sound.
Sound.
I'll let me know once you've
yeah, well,
flicked through it again.
I was gonna say.